Chapter 5. Zero State. To be a citizen of the 21st century was to be a data point. You were a social security number, a credit score, a medical history, a tax bracket. You were defined by the digital wake you left behind as you moved through the world. Lena Mirek was no longer a citizen. In the span of an afternoon, she had become a ghost. She sat in the back of a dimly lit pawn shop in the red light district of Geneva, watching a man with a jeweler's loupe inspect her watch. It was a Patek Philippe, a gift from the Nobel Committee after her work on the Higgs decay rates. It was worth 50,000 euros. For 1,000, the man grunted, not looking up. No box, no papers. It's platinum, Lena said, her voice hoarse. It's worth 10 times that. It's worth what I can sell it for without flagging a transaction report, the man said, dropping the watch onto the velvet counter. He looked at her. He saw the frantic eyes, the dirt on her lab coat, the lack of a phone. He smelled desperation. Take it or leave it. Lena took it. She walked out with a thick envelope of dirty cash. It was the first time she had held physical currency in a decade. Felt heavy, archaic, and anonymous. She didn't go to the airport. Airports were biometric dragnets. Instead, she went to the freight yards. For 3 days, Lena ceased to be a physicist. She became cargo. She paid a Polish truck driver 500 euros to let her sit in the cab of his hauler as far as Rotterdam. From there, she bribed a dock worker to look the other way while she slipped into the crew quarters of a container ship bound for the North Atlantic. She slept in a maintenance closet, curled up on a pile of oily rags, listening to the crushing sound of ice against the hull. In the darkness, her mind replayed the collision data over and over again. The frozen timestamp, the error code, the emptiness of the null state. She wasn't running just to survive. She was running to find a decoder. She needed someone who understood systems not as immutable laws, but as breakable constructs. She needed a breaker. She needed Kian Vossen. Vossen was a legend in the dark corners of the academic web. A former cryptographer for the NSA who had defected, leaked a terabyte of surveillance algorithms, and then vanished. Rumors said he had built a digital fortress where government eyes couldn't see. Rumors said he was hiding in the one place on Earth where electricity was cheap and the cooling was free. Iceland. The ship docked in Reykjavik under a sky that was bruised purple and black. It was noon, but the sun was a distant memory. Lena walked off the gangway, shivering violently as the Arctic wind whipped through her inadequate coat. Reykjavik was a city of heat and frost. Steam rose from the geothermal vents, creating ghostly pillars that danced in the streetlights. Lena didn't have an address. Kian Vossen didn't have a doorbell. But Lena knew physics. If Vossen was running a server farm capable of shielding him from the world's intelligence agencies, he needed power. Massive amounts of it. She spent her first 12 hours in a public library that didn't require ID for entry, huddled over a paper map of the city's power grid she had photocopied from a municipal archive. She cross-referenced it with thermal satellite imaging she found in an old geology textbook. She was looking for an anomaly, a place where the power draw was high, but the thermal output was suspiciously low, indicating high-grade industrial cooling systems masking the heat signature. She found it 3 miles outside the city limits, an old NATO bunker built into the side of a volcanic ridge. On the power grid, it was registered as a seismic monitoring station. But a seismic station didn't consume as much electricity as a small aluminum smelter. Lena bought a heavy parka, a flashlight, and a pry bar from a surplus store. Then she began to walk. The snow was knee-deep by the time she reached the coordinates. The entrance was a rusted steel blast door, half buried in a drift, welded shut. But hackers didn't use the front door. Lena circled the ridge until she found the ventilation shafts. Massive, industrial turbines churned beneath a steel grate, venting warm air into the freezing night. The heat hit her face like a physical blow. She used the pry bar to wrench the grate loose. It groaned, the metal protesting against the ice, before giving way. Lena squeezed through the gap, dropping 10 feet down onto a concrete floor. She was inside. The air hummed. It was the same sound she had heard in the CERN data center, but deeper, more aggressive. The tunnel ahead was lit by strips of red emergency LEDs. Cables, thick as pythons, snaked along the walls, pulsing with data. She followed the cables. They led her deeper into the mountain, past sealed bulkheads and abandoned military checkpoints. Finally, the tunnel opened up into a cavern. It wasn't a bunker anymore. It was a cathedral of processing power. Floor-to-ceiling server racks formed a maze of blinking blue lights. The air was frigid, supercooled by the intake fans roaring above. In the center of the room, sitting in a Herman Miller chair surrounded by a semicircle of 6 monitors, was a man. He was younger than she expected, maybe late 20s. He wore a faded hoodie and had the pale, translucent skin of someone who hadn't seen the sun in years. He was typing furiously, his fingers a blur, not looking at the screens but seemingly through them. Lena stepped into the light. "You're running a decrypted node on the Tor network," she said, her voice echoing in the vast space. "Using a double-blind relay to mask the IP. That's how you stay invisible." The typing stopped instantly. The man didn't jump. He spun his chair around slowly. He looked at her, at the dirt on her face, the desperation in her posture, and the undeniable intelligence in her eyes. "And you," Kian Vossen said, his voice dry and amused, "are Dr. Lena Mirek, the physicist who just got deleted from existence." He tapped a key on his keyboard. One of his screens changed, displaying a grainy image of Lena smashing her laptop in the CERN lobby. "I saw the alert on the dark web," Kian said. "A level 5 personnel scrub. Very dramatic. Usually, they just arrange a car accident. I found something, Kian," Lena said, stepping closer. "I found a glitch. Everything has glitches, Doctor. Windows has glitches. The stock market has glitches. Not like this," she said. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the only thing she had left. A crumpled piece of paper where she had written down the binary sequence of the James Gates code from memory. She slammed it onto his desk, right over his keyboard. "The universe paused to run a checksum," she said. "And I have the error log." Kian looked at the paper. He looked at the sequence of ones and zeros. His amused expression vanished, replaced by the sharp, predatory focus of a predator recognizing a scent. "That's a Hamming code," he whispered. "I know," Lena said. "Can you read it?" Kian looked up at her, a slow, terrifying smile spreading across his face. "Read it," he said. "Doctor, I can execute it."